Hey everyone, it's Ben Hardy here, and in today's video, we're reviewing a base model Jeep Wrangler. Before we get in this video, I want to give a huge shout out and thank you to the Larry H. Miller Dodge Ram Jeep car sale here in Sandy. If you're going to spend some time with this Wrangler, I'll include a link to their website in the description down below. I'll also include a link to my car buying guide. Let's get into it. Under the hood, we have a turbocharged 2-liter 4-cylinder that goes through an 8-speed. Fuel economy is 20 around town and then 23 on the highway, with power outputs being 270 horsepower and then 295 pound-feet of torque. Before we move forward with this review, I do want to mention if you want to see more videos just like this, then I recommend you subscribe because I post content every single day. So starting with the hood, nothing crazy going to happen there, but even with the base model, you get the new windshield antenna setup, which is pretty cool. And then you're gonna have the base lights with this, so you can see with the turn signal indicators and all of that. Got the base bumper with the fog lights. Does have recovery points, but for an entry level, I think it actually looks pretty cool. So our tire wheel setup is 245 by 75 by 17 in the front and over in the rear. And you can see with the wheels completely blacked out. Even on the base model, you still have solid front axle, of course. Got these big chunky fender flares, and then this one has the hardtop, which is an option. And there's your side profile. You can see the 2-door shorty style. Now this leads us to the key fob where we have our lock and unlock function. Got the Jeep logo there on the back, a little flip out key as well. So pretty cool setup overall. And then this leads us into the cargo area. So that's easy enough. The opening, same thing with that. Now being the 2-door, you're not gonna have a ton of storage space behind these seats. As you can see, it's a little bit more limited, but if you want more, just go for the 4-door. And then closing mechanism in order, pretty cool. That whole setup. Love the taillight design. Spare tire on the back, of course. Do have a recovery point there. Solid rear axle as well. That's the rest of the rear. And then popping inside, although this doesn't have, you know, keyless entry with touch like this, it does have a lock and unlock on the key fob. So that's nice. Soft touch here. You can see with the mirrors. Payload sticker. I know that payload's important, so 700 pounds. And then here are the seats, cloth. They are manually adjustable. And then of course you do have the second row. Kind of scoot the camera. I don't think the camera can make it back there. The microphone's just a little bit too big. But you do have a second row, which you can fit adults back there, but it's just getting back there. Now taking a look at the steering wheel, a little bit more basic with the trim. There is radio controls in the back. We do have stuff like cruise control here, controls for the center, and then you can see with the regular old stocks. And then with the gauge cluster itself, you do have the digital element, which will show you information like tire, PSI, and all of that. So nice little setup to have. And I like how you still have analog gauges on either side. So just a backup camera in reverse. And yes, all new Wranglers get this screen. Doesn't matter how loaded up or how base model it is. It does take a second for some of the functions to load up. You'll notice that we do have single zone climate with this. And then even the base model has like kind of a fancy trim across. Of course, got the grab handle with the itty bitty glove box below it. Climate controls down below with the radio controls built in. And then I'm pretty sure with this one it's just hill descent control. I don't think it's the off-road cruise like on the more loaded up. Well, actually, select speed. I think this might be the off-road cruise. I double check the window sticker. Anyways, window controls there, and then you can see there with the little USB shifter here for the 8-speed. We've got our 2-speed transfer case with this as well. Cup holders, and then parking brake, and sorry, move my tripod out of the way. Yeah, pretty solid. Nice trim. And then of course with the hard top, this one doesn't have the insulation, and we do have a manual mirror dimmer. So this leads us to the window sticker, Wrangler 2-door Sport. We do have a few options added to it, like anti-lock 4-wheel disc brakes. Yes, that is part of an option. Anyways, $38,880 is a total MSRP after all options. At least it has power windows. Let's take it out. Well, 2-door Wrangler. Let me actually put this. I completely forgot to pull in the legs of my tripod. thing. And something I've noticed about these hardtops, by the way, is they have this like kind of interesting texturing in it. And some of them are black and some of them are white. Most of them are white, but just something interesting to note. Kind of interested to see how this drives. And just give you guys an idea of the price difference. This right here is basically the same car, but a Sport S. So you've got like the fancier wheels and all that, and that's like 43 grand. So it's like, just to get a few more features, it's like 5 grand more. Crazy, right? Absolutely crazy. But man, this turbocharged engine feels kind of weak in the 4-door, but in the 2-door, feels great. That 2-door is definitely bouncy all over the place. With the shorter wheelbase, you kind of, basically what happens with the long wheelbase, right, you impact on one side and then the other side comes down a little bit later, so you've got like a pause. This, it's like front back, boom, right in a line, and so the car is just like woo all over the place. And you know, just in general, same thing, just bumps in the like little bumps in the road, the front hits and then the back hits very soon after, and so yeah, it's not as comfortable. But the benefit of the short wheelbase is it is more fun. It kind of feels more like some of the older Wranglers where it's kind of like zippy all over the place. Just a fun driving experience in general. Man, that's punchy. Yeah, it's got great torque. I will give it that. Great torque. Now you are going to get more road noise with this, being the Sport. It's not going to, I mean, it's the new Wrangler in general has more insulation, but this doesn't have like the top insulation, for example, so it's just going to be a little bit noisier, but it's not bad at all. Ooh, Hyundai Santa Fe. I almost said Santa Cruz. Santa Fe. You know, this is a little bit of a tangent. I don't mind the new Hyundai Santa Fe. I think it's actually a pretty cool looking car. But man, my wife, she always texts me whenever she sees one, and she's just like, ugly, ugly, ugly. It's so funny. She feels like she doesn't text me about cars very often, but whenever she does text me about a car, it's almost always a Hyundai Santa Fe. It's always her saying, like, that's how passionate she is about how she thinks that is like the ugliest car ever made. It's kind of like going for that boxy thing that the Wrangler's all about, which is funny. I will say this interior is pretty darn nice. So one thing that I will give modern Jeep and stuff credit for is their interiors are actually, especially when you compare it to the competitors, like Ford's interior on the Bronco is very cheap and plasticky. I mean, this guy has plastic, but I don't know, it just feels nicer. It's kind of interesting that yeah, people seem to value the Fords a little bit more, but it's like the Jeep has just a nicer interior, and the setup for what this is makes way more sense for off-roading with solid axles. Zoom in. Man, it's got some get up. It's not a rocket ship, but the 2-door with the turbo, it ain't bad. It ain't bad at all. So I guess that'll get me into summing things up here with this Jeep. Beep beep Jeep, right? I think that the 2-door is pretty fun. It's not the most comfortable, it's not the most daily drivable, but the 2-door's kind of never been about that. 2-door's been about, I mean, most people I think get these for like a secondary vehicle, and then they just use them for fun, use them for the weekends. And I know that most of you that watch this channel watch TFL, much bigger channel than mine. They've been doing the off-road series with their 2-door that so they bought one of these and then they put the bigger tires on it, and it goes pretty much everywhere. Like, it's super capable. And that's the one thing to note is, and I personally want to do, I know it's a more expensive vehicle, but I'm going to be doing a very light, like a moderate off-road build with my 200 series Land Cruiser. I think that people have gone like way over the top with off-road builds. Modern cars with modern traction control systems are incredibly capable. Like, I think people forget, back in the day, it used to be no computer traction system at all, solid axles, and like 33s were considered huge. Like, most cars had 29s, 31s that were off-roaders. And so modern off-roaders, like if you get one of these and you put 33s on it, it can go pretty much everywhere. Like, anywhere that you would want to go without putting yourself in a situation where you're literally probably gonna die, this can go. So it just, I don't know, it's just something to think about. I think that we're gonna see a return to more modest builds, because I think people are realizing that, like, you don't need to have, you know, 15 inches of ground clearance in 40s. You can do just fine with 33s. And I mean, this, so if you put 33s on this, you'd probably have a little bit, probably have about 10 inches of ground clearance. I guess more, I mean, that thing right there, the Grenadier that I have, that's got, I've got 33s on that. And so I think I've got, so stock it's 10.4, but the 33 is a little bit, so I think in total that's got probably about 11 inches of ground clearance now that I've got the bigger tires compared to stock. And it can go everywhere. Like, I haven't bottomed out once, and I haven't had a situation where I, you know, have run out of, and that's the other thing to know, is Wranglers have really good angles. Man, I'm going on a tangent like crazy here, but Wranglers have really good angles. You know, the approach, departure, and breakover are pretty, breakover is the weakest, but still the approach and departure are really solid on these. And so with those strong angles, it's like, you can, angles are such a big part of off-roading. I don't think people realize, people think it's like clearance and tires. And I mean, that thing really proves it, because 11 inches of ground clearance with those tires, the 33s, and because the angles on that are so aggressive, just like a Wrangler, you don't hit into stuff, you don't bottom out. So let me know your thoughts.